If you've ever looked into running massive mega dungeons and you've come to the conclusion that basically these whole sections where you walk from room to room and everything sort of remains stagnant is one of your main issues, I think we can fix that with two things. One, a wandering monster table, and two, factions. In this stream, we're going to create a little bit of both, and we're going to overlay it on top of the dungeon we already started working on in our last two live streams on Starkheim. And basically that's going to take our whole dungeon and it's going to make it feel a lot more alive, like it's all telling the same story. For a little bit now, we're just going to have a chat and talk here with everybody live, and then we'll come back to the stream in a little bit. So until then, just hang around if you're watching the VOD. If you're watching us live, hi everybody. Welcome to Mystic Arts. My name is Daði. I'm a professional writer and director, and I've been DMing for over 10 years. And I really want to show you, I went to the store the other day. I went to my friendly local game store, and I got really excited when I saw that they have, if you don't know me a lot, you wouldn't know why I got giddy about this, but this is Cthulhu by Gaslight, and the extent to which this makes me excited is kind of insane. So it's Call of Cthulhu, 7th edition, I believe, but it's for running it in Victorian London. So the typical Cthulhu setting is 1930s Massachusetts in Arkham, and you got Miskatonic University and all these things. This here is all in, hang on, let me see if yeah, there we go. This here is all in London. You can see these bobbies on the cover and Big Ben, and we got, is that London Bridge behind him? I think so. So just over here you'd have the Ferris wheel, but I believe not yet. You have Powers of Westminster, and then you got some horrible monstrosity in here. And I got the Keeper's Guide, as well as, let's see if they can, yeah, there we go, as well as the Investigator Guide. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know when I'm going to be running this. If you've watched my video on like why I like 5th edition, you know that I I play a lot of D&D, and I like playing D&D, and finding time to play other games is usually very difficult, but occasionally I see something like this and I just get giddy, because, oh my god, look at this. It's got the little bobbies. I just love the Victorian London aesthetic. My city of Blackguard in D&D is very much this. If I had to commission an art of it, it would kind of look like this. But it's got all this, the Keeper's Guide. So what Cthulhu does amazingly is the Keeper's Guide for these things are, they're all kind of, they have like in them adventures. A bunch of lore, you know. This here's telling you about the class system. No, you can't see it. The class system. But, it's got a bunch of stuff in it, and it's got 2 whole adventures. And since they're Cthulhu adventures, they're usually quite short. Something you can play in a session or 2. So at some point, I'm going to bust this open and I'm going to show my players Call of Cthulhu, the ones who haven't played at least. Gaslight Cthulhu Girlboss. That's right, Rachel. Exactly. Yeah. That's funny. Hi, Mars and Kasparov. Welcome to the stream. It's nice to see you. Nice to catch you folks live. I'm going to have a little scroll-up chat here. He's pulling Zach the Bolt on us. Yeah, honestly, it's a lot like those Zach the Bolt streams where he's melting in there. Now, as far as I know, that guy lives in California. And I do not. I live on a little rock in the middle of the Atlantic, and normally it's freezing here, and my body is acclimatized to the freezing. And the houses are built to contain heat. They're strong, they're made of concrete, thick walls of concrete. So when the sun hits the inside of this place, it never gets out. And we don't have any AC, we don't have any air cons. A normal apartment in Iceland doesn't even own a fan. So I'm just sort of sat here in a slowly increasing temperature, hoping I don't perish from heat stroke before I manage to do what I want to do today, which is have a look at factions in D&D. Greetings, Goran. Hi, how are things in Croatia? Nick, if you almost died the only time you played Call of Cthulhu, I think you're having the actual correct experience. I believe if anything else happens, you've done it wrong. Call of Cthulhu is very different from D&D in that way, that you're kind of expected to just die or go insane. Hey Ash, had a new question. I wanted to run a 3-shot where you delve into a dungeon, and I want the end to feel like an end. However, I also want there to be more in case the players want to continue. Suggestions? If you haven't seen our Wreck of the Wave Splitter, I think it's kind of perfect for a 3-shot adventure. You could just start by going to the Peril Toll, and then have them go back to town at the end of it, and have the town have another quest in it, and then you prepare the next 5-room dungeon. That's it. And you know, if they like the next 5-room dungeon, maybe have a little hint relating to the bad guy. You know, you start building up these Tetris pieces of the bad guy. Maybe the reef from the Wreck of the Wave Splitter is an offshoot of some greater evil. And in your next 5-room dungeon, you have another 5-room dungeon with some kind of entity in it, but it is also an offshoot of the greater evil. You put hooks into both of them that are nebulous, we don't understand yet, and we may not understand for a few more months as you go and run some small, short adventures. Because here's the thing, when you start running really, really long adventures, if you're running for new people and new group, the dynamic isn't there yet. What you can end up happening is you could have this kind of scenario where you're kind of screwing yourself over because nobody ever gets to finish anything. And the main reason people play D&D is as an escapism, to feel like a hero and to get stuff done. Because in real life, they go to a job, 9 to 5, and their job doesn't really have this kind of climactic end to it. So when you're running for new players, the best way to hook them is to give them a story they can finish. And then another one, and then another one. And you kind of run it like a TV show. You've got serialized storytelling and episodic storytelling. So, the episodes are your 5-room dungeons. And the series is this ominous mentioning you're doing, right? Like in Doctor Who, there is this ominous mentioning of Bad Wolf in the first season. There's a Super Geek Mike video about exactly that, which you might get a kick out of, Ash. And what you do is you just sort of run a dungeon, you mention, the Screaming Mass. And then in the next 5-room dungeon, this is the first dungeon mentions the Screaming Mass, but it's all about the reef. Have the reef mention the Screaming Mass when they talk to it, right? Then the next 5-room dungeon, it's not the reef, it's the cliffs, the crags, and the crags are alive. There's a living mountainside or something, and it mentions the Screaming Mass. And now the players go, oh, what's that? And you run a few more, and you get to know more and more about the Screaming Mass. Then there's a Screaming Mass cult in town. You string all these together until eventually you start running an adventure about the Screaming Mass, or whatever it is you want to run about. Tiamat or Vecna, whatever your big final bad guy is. That would be my advice. Extreme Neoclassical asks. Also, hi Matthew. Extreme Neoclassical asks if I've ever gotten into the OSR. I've never run an OSR system. I would like to, if I ever find time where I'm not running a bunch of games at D&D and a YouTube channel and a full-time job and everything I'm doing. But I would love to. I went to the friendly local game store when I was picking up these Cthulhu books that I was showing off earlier. And this is now the 3rd time in a row where I stop and I stare longingly at Old School Essentials. And I also saw a Shadow Dark box there, and I thought, maybe. The thing is, I just don't have time to look at them right now, unless I cancel a game I'm running, which I'm not in the mood to do. I love those games. So I haven't really played the OSR games, but I think the Old School Renaissance goes beyond that. The old OSR isn't a game; it's a methodology, and that methodology I think you can extend to all kinds of stuff. And I get a huge kick out of watching OSR YouTubers and then seeing, is there a way I can do some of this stuff in D&D? I still like D&D and I like the heroic fantasy and I like everyone getting to be sort of epic superhero characters. So I don't want to lose that, but can I do it with like dungeon turns or hex crawls or dungeon crawling? So in that regard, I've gotten into the OSR, right? I'm a big believer that the people, there's this sentiment that I see that kind of rubs me the wrong way, where people go, they poo-poo the old style. Those guys didn't know what they could do. They didn't know what was available to them. I think that's kind of an insane take. Those people created the hobby, and it grew massively with them. and I think there's a lot to learn from going to test those things and see how they work and having fun with it. And you often discover that there's a reason that dungeons were so exciting, because they were they were mysterious, and there was loot in there, and that's how you leveled up, and all of these things. Some of which has been broken by new systems, but some of which has also just been broken by new design practices that we can easily bring back. So I do that. I bring those things. I bring them all back. Weather is nice and sunny. Yeah, God, I love Iceland. I love it when it's sort of gray and a bit misty. I love it when the weather is just a little crap, a little bit crap. Right now it's kind of too nice. It also just makes me want to be outside. Sorry. Matthew asks, I'm looking to run a game that's basically Oregon Trail but with magic and fantasy. I thought about using the USAS scale to hex map, but I was wondering, is it too large? Probably. Obviously, whatever you want to do, if you're excited about a thing, go chase that to creation, and that's how you end up creating something that you're excited about, and that's more important than anything anybody has to say, especially some idiot on the internet. But I'm doing that kind of Oregon Trail, Lewis and Clark kind of thing, and you know, the size of that map is, I don't know, 100 by 200 miles, and that is massive. That is going to fuel several years of gameplay. It doesn't need to be much bigger than that. Yeah, you know, that's kind of insane. Oh, hi, Trek. Ryan Yankers asks, do you run the 5-room dungeon as a linear set of rooms, or do you create sections of rooms surrounding the 5 pillars? When I say 5-room dungeon, I just mean 5 rooms, and usually they're linear, but sometimes, you know, you could go to the resolution first. Like in the new Dungeon Crawl video, I talked about a hag's windmill, and I had the hag in the basement, and then the tower on top, and then the entrance outside. So you could approach that in a number of ways, but you can take a structure, any structure, 5-room dungeon included, and extend it to be each room is an area, or each room is a level, or each room is a tier of play. You just think in terms of entrance, puzzle, setback, climax, resolution. You could do the same. You could do this with any structure in anything. The value of structures is how bendable they are. So you could say, you could go to Aristotle's Poetics, and you've got introduction, rising action, climax, resolution, falling action, resolution, right? You could go and say it's a 3-act structure, 5-room structure, right? 5-room structure, 3-act structure. Hang on, those don't match. What are you going to do with the extra 2 rooms? Well, a 3-act structure is actually a 5-act structure, if you know anything about it. You've got your introduction, and then your second act is actually 3 acts. Well, you could put the climax in the 3rd act, and then the resolution shortly thereafter. You don't need a lot of resolution. Just a few minutes. So, you know, you can take any structure and do anything with it. I think when I say 5-room dungeon, I am literally meaning 5 rooms, you run a dungeon in one night. Now, I play for 4 5-hour sessions, sometimes 6-hour sessions, but if you play for 3 hours, you might have to trim it. But you can take a 5-room dungeon, you can run it in one night. And that's the value of a 5-room dungeon. But when you're thinking about structures, you can take any structure and fit it to any time scale. Every story you've ever heard that you heard and you thought that was a story was by definition in some structure. It had a beginning, middle, and an end. Beginning, middle, end. Same thing. Hi, Arcane Lock. I just saw you commented on an old community post today saying that you found us off of Jason, the interview we did with Enothe Strife, Jason from Enothe Strife, which is mind-blowing to me. But welcome. Jason does incredible videos. More people should go check him out. Oh, I don't have my usual filter on. the background noise thing. Stand by. Let me try this. That should help, Fork. Thanks for pointing it out. My emphasis on timekeeping and dungeon crawls is a very promising blend of OSR adventures and modern heroic adventures. Yeah, I tend to think of myself as someone who likes to synthesize things, to take multiple ideas and then I make my own version of it. And I think if you're a dungeon master, I think you're a better dungeon master the more you synthesize. I think having, your ultimate job is to entertain the people in front of you at the D&D table. So when you're doing that, what you really want to be doing is you want to be taking all the things you have and you want to grab them, you want to put them into a little package. And the amount of stuff you need to create a whole world, whole cloth, is insane. But it also isn't. You don't need that much. But if you want a bunch, you can. You can go on forever, right? But that's sort of the trick for me is I steal. I steal endlessly. I put Warhammer minis on the table. I make up stat blocks for them and I tell my players these are skinks and they live in my world now. As somebody who likes to synthesize things, I also like to take OSR style and modern heroic style, and I like to see where those things meet and see if we can play there. And sometimes I'm wrong. Actually, I'm wrong all the time. But sometimes I'm not, and it's awesome. And when you get over that fear of being wrong, you end up having more fun. So now I'm just reading chat. Blah, blah, blah. I try to plan game sessions with the scenes following the 5-room format. Yeah, Red. I don't know how often. I'm just sort of winging it. And I get to room number 3 and I realize I'm doing the 5-room format. So I go, okay, if I want to have a satisfying arc, I just have to give the players an excuse to go to the climax. Right? They did the setup, or they did the setback just now. And if I can make things, if I can ramp up the tension right now, they can have the climax, and then I just have to give them some loot, and now everybody goes home happy. Because I've internalized the 5-room structure. And I recognized it when it happened. And I thought, I could go and create a multi-session arc out of this. I could offer them a climax and they don't take it, and it turns out it's a multi-session arc, right? The DM decides what game we're playing. The players decide whether or not they're going to play. That's an adventure I'm going to release next month, probably, that phrase. But you've got this arc to it, and you can offer them a climax. And if they take it, then you've got a 5-room structure, and you can create a satisfying story with your players in the moment. That's what value of structures is, right? Matthew Willis, Dungeon Masterpiece. That's Baron de Rop, right? Yeah, 5-room dungeon, 3-act structure. Grant from Mossy Antler sent me this awesome screenshot. Or like a picture. Yeah, hang on. Let me show you this. This is all the story structures. 4-act structure. Here's the Joseph Campbell, call to action, whatever. Dan Harmon's story circle. Billy Wilder, put a character up a tree, set the tree on fire, get the character down from the tree. It's all the same thing. There really isn't any meaningful difference. Logo appears again. There really isn't any meaningful difference between these story structures. Stories are an innately human invention that we've been doing forever. And we know when a story is wrong. And when we see a wrong story, we know what needs to go in it. Structures are just ways we can phrase that to ourselves so that we know what we're up to, right? Put the blur back on, there we go. Marcus Twitchell, I'm thinking of running a 5-room dungeon as a one-shot. Bad idea. No, fantastic idea. That's what they're for. If your one-shot is about like three hours, it's probably too short. It is very difficult to do a whole thing in one session. But I've done it, and it can be a lot of fun. How do you balance, Calvin Collins Knapp asks, how do you balance sandbox and plot? I feel like the more sandbox I give my players, the more I sacrifice on pace of play and having an overarching plot. How do you balance this? You gotta get comfortable with sort of losing a bit of control there. But you can also add it back in. When you recognize the structure is off, you can add in the elements you need, right? When you see, okay, they're now, mucking around with this stuff, you can add those elements back in. But also, sometimes I go several sessions when we're just talking, we're sandboxing, we're figuring stuff out, and I'm not really doing much. I had a session the other day, I was complimented on it by my players, they said this was a great time. I did nothing. They took a few night watches, they talked the whole time, I just relaxed, I breathed calmly, breathed regular, right? And it was an awesome time. If you can get to that point, you can have a lot of fun. But also, when you put a sandbox together, make sure everything in the sandbox is story, right? If you put stuff in your sandbox that's boring, the players are going to go there. It's the same as with random encounters. If you make a boring random encounter, you're going to roll it, and then you're running it, and now it's boring, and you put it there. It's your fault, right? So if you can make sure that you piece your sandbox out of stuff you like and the stuff you're excited about, and everything in there is fun to you, and those things are all story elements you would like to run, then there's no problem. Wherever they go, you have to be in a scenario with the sandbox. You have to be in a scenario that wherever the players go, you're going to have a good time. That's what it's about, right? What's the reference image? I don't know. I don't know where it came to me from Grant. Grant summoned it. Listen, I'll post it into sharing content on Discord. Or maybe someone can reverse image search it. But the full image is there, and if somebody reverse image searches it and posts it in the Discord, I will put a link in the chat here so you guys can all see it, so it's not just for folks in Discord. Yeah, Kishuten Ketsu. This story structure image has everything on it. What was it that got a big laugh out of me? Robert McKee, John Truby. Those didn't get a laugh out of me. They just... Sitfield. I don't know. I saw something on here and got a belly laugh out of me. How do you prevent a 5-room dungeon from getting predictable and samey? You can assemble 5 rooms into, I think, something like 20 patterns. It's insane. You don't have to do them in the right order. You can do them in multiple orders. You can string them together. You can have 5 rooms, but in between room 2 and 3, you put another 5-room dungeon. You can have them sequential. You can go from the entrance into any of the other rooms. You can enter climax first. And that's not mentioning the fact that there's an entire monster manual for you to differentiate every part of the room from each other, right? You can go and say, well, it's a 5-room dungeon, but the outside is some goblins and a bugbear, and the inside is a troll and it's limb jumbles, and you give the troll a funny little accent, and he says, "Majumbles, majumbles," and you put an Otyugh outside, and it's in a pile of poop, and that's the resolution. There's gold in the pile of poop. The players will not recognize the structure. How do you prevent a 5-room dungeon from getting predictable or samey? Do you still play games, read books, or go to movies? Do you still go out there and experience new media and have fun? When's the last time you went and saw a movie and you had an awesome time with it? That movie followed the structure, and it followed the same structure as everything you've ever seen in your life. That's it. When we ran a West Marches game, we did 78 sessions of 5-room dungeons. It was great. It was awesome. The story changed. The narrative stakes changed. My character got, was becoming a lich. It was awesome. At no point did I go, it's all the same 5-room dungeon. Didn't matter. People still watch Star Trek, and every single one of those episodes is the same. Do I have the wrong microphone? Yes, I do. This should be the right microphone. I'm so sorry. You've been listening to me on the webcam this whole time. Man, that's terrible. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the correct audio channel. Hi, Malsey. Hi, Open World Addict. How you guys doing? Hi, Nagobi. How you doing? Yeah, Trek says it's 20 patterns, but if you change the order, it's thousands. And that's without changing the monsters, or the context, or the goals, or the combat types, the types of exploration you're doing. There is a billion ways to make 5-room dungeons. Easy. Hey, Mitchell. How you doing? Shadow Dark, that's cool. Hey, you didn't need me. You had this all under control. Does the resolution not need to go to the end? You can resolve 5 rooms and then lead to another 5 rooms. You can watch episode 3 of Star Trek and then watch episode 4. You can do whatever. You can have the resolution. You can have the players walk into a room and find the hostage. And she says, the things that took me are in there. And they can go, oh, well, we don't care. We're going to take the hostage and run away. That's fine. Right? Save the blacksmith's daughter. She's in there. But you can also go, well, there is a bunch of bad guys in there. And there's stuff and whatever. But is that the entrance? I don't know. You can kind of do whatever with these things. Yeah, exactly, Nagobi. How do you prevent things from being repetitive? People replay games. You're gonna make some Trekkies angry. Sorry, Trek. Maybe you are. Maybe you are a Trekkie. I watch Doctor Who. Every episode of Doctor Who is the same, but they are nothing alike. But still, at minute 37, we hear the same theme tune every time. It's fine. Majumbles. That was fun. I did that the other day. I also had the Otyugh. They were approaching a big pile of shit. It was like 20 feet tall or something, and the players were nervously approaching it. And then I realized Otyughs have telepathy. So I turned to one of the players, fully serious, and I said, "You hear a voice in your head, a whisper. You feel the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and the voice says, 'Shit. Give me shit.' Because it eats poo." So I tell you, the players weren't thinking, man, this is like every other 5-room dungeon. No, they were laughing their ass off. One-Eyed asks if I'll make an Obsidian video where I go into how I structure my vault. Maybe. I might do a follow-up on the Obsidian video. I think kind of the beauty of Obsidian is that you don't need to do any one structure. You can just sort of make stuff up. Oh, and Gunnar, thanks for the $10. I didn't even. I just read everything. I'm sorry. Thank you. One-Eyed. Yeah, you could definitely do that kind of stuff. I really appreciate it, Gunnar. I'm flustered. I never know what to do with these. Super thanks. Thank you. genuinely. Yeah, I don't know about the Obsidian stuff, because the beauty kind of is that you can sort of do whatever with it. You're not hidebound to whatever the structure is, and you shouldn't bind yourself to my structure. But maybe I have to get over myself and just show you how I do it, and then you guys can do whatever you want. But I don't really have a structure. I've got like 7 folders, and I write article after article after article, and they pile up in unsorted, and then I just put them into something. I'm like, is this faction more politics or crime? Happy to help, Arjun. Nagobi, you should get like a cart or something. They have those at the store, right? You could just put things in them and sort of wheel them along. Yeah, Batrel's run in the Winter Court. I'm running a Feywild adventure for Octavia right now. She's about to enter Mudburn, which is where the Goblin King resides. Here it is, Zero Censorus. Oh. Here it is. Grant also posted and Zero Censorus did. Here's the article I promised I'd send you a link to. I crowdsourced it. Hey, Bubble Rum, that's awesome. Ooh, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm so late on chat. People are now freaking out over that. Did I try Canvas? No, like I'm a bit of an Obsidian Luddite. I'm just I met with this awesome Obsidian YouTuber, and he does programming and stuff. I should shout him out. Make sure I get this correct. No, I'm not finding it. Triss, here he is. I'll put his videos from No Boilerplate here in chat. You guys should absolutely check it out. But if you're interested in Obsidian stuff, go check out people who are smarter than me, because I'm a bit of a Luddite. And Triz and I we hung out a bit, and he taught me a whole bunch of cool stuff. And his Obsidian looks amazing. He's got like D&D dice and stat blocks and stuff in there. And he told me everything I needed to do, and I understood him completely. And then the call ended, and then I'd forgotten all of it. I don't know. I just, bleh. Hey, Uncephalized. Welcome along. Is a faction more like politics or crime? These are the same picture. Yeah. Oh my god, Marcus, thank you so much. Do you think it's a fine idea to DM your first session in a one-shot and not a campaign? I've heard conflicting advice, and it's hard to get people to commit to a campaign since it's my first time. So, a lot of people will tell you, and I don't think they're wrong, by the way, a lot of people will tell you it's very difficult to do a one-shot. One-shots are tough. They are hard. So as a DM, it's a lot of work, because you have to compact a story into 5 rooms. But you could do a 5-room dungeon, right? You can run something like All Hail Gek. It's a dungeon I'd signed. It's free on the channel. It's in the 5-room dungeon video. You could do something like that and run your players through it. Because if you say, hey, does everybody want to come and play one session of D&D? That's way more likely to get a yes than if you say, hey, who wants to sign up for the next 3 years of their life every Sunday? By the way, I don't know what I'm doing. That's a tough sell, right? So if you can get into the idea of just sort of doing a one-shot and knowing it's going to be a bit tough and knowing you're going to have to do all the work, right? You're probably, if these people have never played before, you're probably going to get... you're probably going to be the one who has to do all the stat blocks and all the monsters and all the player characters. You're going to have to bring the snacks. You're going to have to find a place to play. You're going to do all of it. But if you're willing to do that, and you could tell people it's one night, And then at the end of the night, you go, can we do this again? That's the way to go. That's the killer right there. But it's a lot of work. Carts are for loser weak babies. God damn it, Gobi. Do I find it helpful to think of factions as having personality? A little. I mostly think of them as having goals. We'll get into this in a second, but I think people are trying to segue me on topic, which I think is fine. Hey, that's awesome, Lummy. Keep it up. Alright, so maybe we should accept one of these segues on topic. It's been about 38 minutes. It's remarkable that anybody's watching. Oh my god, 182 people. Hi everybody, how you doing? Here's the thing. Right now is May, and we're calling it Dungeon Mayhem because we're doing a bunch of dungeons in May. We're doing videos about dungeons. We're doing these live streams where I'm making a mega dungeon. This is going to be part 3 of that, but if you haven't seen the other parts, I'll do a little summary here in a second. But we're also doing the video on dungeon crawls, which came out last week, and next Thursday, hopefully, we're a little tight on time, but next Thursday we're going to do a video on jack casing, on how you can make big dungeons be exciting by having them loop, right? We talked about drawing dungeons on graph paper. We're going to do another video on dungeon scrawl pretty soon. And there's going to be a huge collaboration called Dungeon Jam. This is a Dungeon Tuber event where a whole bunch of Dungeon Tubers are going to be writing 5-room dungeons and sharing them with their audience. And I have the honor of kicking off this thing on May 25th, on the 5th month of the 2025th year, for the 5-room dungeon jam, where we all make 5-room dungeons. 5-room dungeons, starting on the 25th in 2025, on the 5th month. And for the next 5 days, a whole bunch of Dungeon Tubers will be uploading videos about 5-room dungeons they made, and they'll be sharing them all for free, and we'll all link our playlists in the description. So if you're a person who's going, oh my god, I want to run D&D, but it's so difficult to make stuff up, or, you know, I just want a batch to steal from, or I don't run D&D, I run Pathfinder, there's a Pathfinder people in there, or Shadow Dark, or whatever, I encourage you to keep your eyes open when we all start, because this whole thing is going to be... That whole thing, it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be just a whole bunch of stuff for everybody, for them to share 5-room dungeons, and you, the audience, are going to have a glut of awesome stuff to steal from. So I encourage you to mark the date and get excited, because this is just a few days out. It's 6 days from now. So that is Dungeon Jam, but right now, I think that's all for the blah blah I need to do, and it's a perfect segue, because right now we have to go make a mega dungeon, and I have to stop being Daði from Mystic Arts and become Daði, the dungeon guy.
Daði the dungeon guy.
Daði the dungeon guy.
Daði the dungeon guy.
Subscribe to D&D rules.
Daði the dungeon guy.
Welcome back to Smash.
Clearly
Pass.
agile, sneaky, intelligent, powerful. I'm on the bed already.
T-minus 5 seconds.
Daði the dungeon guy.
Hell yeah. We started making a mega dungeon some time ago, and it was a lot of fun. It's for my main campaign, so my players are not allowed to watch this video. They are not allowed to tune in. They're not allowed to chat. So right now, the only mod in the chat here is Naigobi. And we're going to go swap on over to screen mode. Screen mode. Screen is wonky. Unwonk. There we go. This is my Obsidian. Hell yeah. You guys like that? So what we did is we made this mega dungeon that's going to be in the center of my Hexcrawl. Let me see if I can't pull up an image of it. So this here is the Hexcrawl I'm running for my D&D group right now in the Kingmaker Everlasting game, my main game. We're on the 80th session of that thing. And the players, some of them are still on level 2. Do as I say, not as I do. This is the big forest we have. And, you know, sometimes I have to remind myself that writing is rewriting. Because I looked at this big thing, and I thought all the excitement was going to be down here. Then I realized this isn't a map of a big forest. It's a map with a mountain ridge in the middle. And this mountain ridge is going to be the centerpiece of our campaign. It's going to be a mega dungeon. And in the first stream in the series, we figured out how the mega dungeon goes into the Underdark, which in my setting is a different plane. And you can use that Underdark plane to travel, fast travel across the map by going between planar portals, right? In the second session, we did an outline. Blip, and we wrote down a bajillion ideas, which was a lot of fun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We had 20 areas. And now it's May 19th, and we're probably not going to finish this. That would be absurd. But we're going to keep going. The part that you have to sort of embrace with any mega project is that it's going to take mega time. And unless you're willing to commit, you might not enjoy doing it and having to give up or stop because something happens, right? But we're going to keep going because now we're going to worry about factions. And we have them here. This is the secret of any big project as well. They take a long time, sure. But the secret is you take those big projects and you chop them up into little bits. And each of those bits is manageable. It's something you can do, right? So I'm going to move myself here a little bit. Neener. And we're going to do a little bit of format setup. Actually, I promise I have typed on a keyboard before. And when I say we take a big thing and we chop it up into little pieces, that means that we are always outlining. These handful of bullet points we wrote down last time are now our outline, right? So, scratching my leg here, because it's hot. It's boiling hot. Why am I wearing an undershirt? Why do I do this to myself? Underdark. There we go. What is Starkheim? Let's remind ourselves. Starkheim is the home of the Starkhelm clan in the Norandia Mountains. It has been in decline for decades, and it fell into catastrophe a few months ago. In the heart of this mountain, connects to the old the heart of. When we do it live, we're going to get it. The heart of this mountain connects to the mine of fallen clans, the Forsaken Forge, Vexer Nanicus' lair, and the old quarry in the hills. Right? Premise. The Starkhelm clan was a proud clan of isolationist dwarves. They had little to nothing to do with the cultures of Droshkut and Vedkar. Those are my other dwarven cultures. They created and tamed the Earthheart Forge and used it to create the Axe of the Dwarvish Lords, along with other artifacts. So there are big magic items in this dungeon. Following the end of the last war, that was about 27 years ago in my setting, magic changed and their forge started dying over the course of a few years. Desperate for a solution, something to reignite the forge, the dwarves fractured politically, reaching out to different supernal forces in the hopes of reigniting the forge. Supernal here means, in my setting I use the word supernal to mean the nature of the creature means it is of greater power. A human, a normal human in the monster manual is CR0, right? A normal dragon in the monster manual at adult is CR 13. Dragons are supernal. By doing nothing, without ascending or anything like that, just normal creatures of this creature type are grand things, right? So they reach out to different supernal creatures. They're not deities. In my setting, supernal creatures have an easier time becoming deities, right? Today, there are not only different factions of dwarves running around the hall, but alien factions too. Duergar, undead fire giants, Myconid, drow, warforged, and other creatures of the Underdark. So, here is what we want to do. We want to create factions, and we want to create a wandering monster table. Now, counters in... By the way, somebody was asking about my obsidian sorting the other day. This is how I find things. They're not in folders. I just search. You could search the interior of a thing. Somebody was like, hey, you know, what do I know about Vivian Klein? And I'm like, Vivian Klein? Type it in. Oh, you know, these are all articles that mention her. She's got her own article, but she's also in these session notes. How powerful is that? Jonas, you're asking about when one faction, when to stop making factions. The answer is whenever they're no longer important for the adventure you're playing. If you're playing every week, and you're not stopping yourself because you keep making factions, and that you're not holding back on how much you get to play because you're spending time world building, it's not a problem. Go on, pop off, whatever you like. But I have a game to run every few days. So that means that I prep until I'm ready to run the game. That's it. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to make encounters in Starkheim. And I do this because I want to steal the formatting. Now, if somebody were in here who knows Obsidian, they might say, you can use templates. And I'll say, I'm not going to learn how that works. Maybe whenever I have magically a bunch of time. But right now is not the time. Sorry, 1 isn't an option. 2 is the lowest result you can get on 2d8. We're not going to do the bread battle here. Bread Battle is from MCDM's Flea Mortals, and it's awesome. Let me real quick just... Daði types quietly. Jonas, you should absolutely start playing. If you have 80 to 100 pages of lore and you're not playing, right now you're not engaged in D&D. You're engaged in a different sort of slightly masturbatory experience. Like, it's all right. It's fun. I am throwing bricks out of glass houses. I make endless amounts of stuff just for myself because I like it. Right? It's fun to make all these things. I write prep after prep after prep. I open up this article on Vivian Klein, and it goes on and on and on. They haven't met this character, right? So I'm in no position to lecture, but I play a bunch, right? So you have to start running, Because when your players meet the stuff you prepped, the adventure, not the lore, that's D&D. Nothing else is, right? When they're building characters and they're theory crafting, that's a different hobby. When you're writing down, page 100 of your lore, that's a different hobby. And those things can be fun. But that's not D&D. Go play. Get a group together. You don't need many. I think the perfect group size, by the way, hot take, is like 2 to 3. I play for 7 players because I can't not. I run for 7 players. But if you can get 2 to 3 people who want to play, who want to be there, who are going to have a good time, that's a small group. You can fit it around a table. It's small enough that everybody gets plenty of spotlight. Turns are fast. There's lots of talking. Everybody gets to be their own character. Everybody gets to be iconic. Moi. You don't need more than that. If you got a group that's bigger, that's fine. But yeah. Who says it in chat? Malthe? Ready to run the game is perhaps the most insidious checkpoint to reach. You will never be ready. You will never, ever, ever be ready to run the game. You cannot get there. That is impossible. It's unachievable. Put that aside. Run the game. Then, sometime later, you might discover stuff. You might change stuff. I redesign my adventures, my lore. I retcon. I change things non-stop. If the players haven't heard it, it's not canon yet. So, your players haven't heard your 80 to 100 pages of lore, so it's not canon yet. Go play. Make it canon. Go make it canon. Go put that stuff into their brain. Then you're playing the game. And again, I'm saying this. I have probably several hundred thousand words, maybe 1 million words about my setting written down. But so I understand loads of that stuff is stuff my players have never heard of, will not matter. I could totally skip because I like it, so I get it. But you gotta play. You can also prep nothing, play the first session, start prepping for the next session, and slowly build up your prep as they go along playing. I've made 5 or 6 videos on this topic. Go play. Sorry, I'll stop. It's awesome. I'm certain your 80 pages of lore are great. I love mine. I do. And my players, whenever they ask me questions, I'm prepared. I answer extemporaneously on a topic that I've done a lot of research on and I've invented. And it's a lot of fun. Sorry, Holy Ghost. There we go. So, I believe in you. You don't need more. You need 5 rooms. You can make 5 rooms. It's easy. I'm using Wandering Monster here to separate this from Random Encounter. Random Encounter in my head is overland travel. Wandering Monster is in dungeons. It's basically the same thing. Its exploration gets interrupted randomly by combat. I need to take my shirt off, so please wait. I meant undershirt. I'm wearing the same shirt. It's like picking up a gym towel. I'm sorry. I'll spare you the details. It's gross. It's disgusting. I'm not built for this. Put me in freezing environments. That's what I'm built for. Alright, factions. So. I need my focus music. What am I doing? What kind of ramshackle operation is this where I don't have my focus music? Every time I say that, somebody asks, here's the link. That's what I need. Yep. Good. Amog Narkar, run a 5-room dungeon. There's a playlist on the channel called, like, Getting Started, I think. And it's a few videos in a row that tells you everything you need to know to get started. Basically, read the rules, run a 5-room dungeon. That's about it. Don't worry about anything else. Everything else you can worry about if it's successful. If your players go, that was awesome, let's do it again next week. And then you can start. Then you have my permission to start writing that 80-page bullet list. As long as you run next week, and the week after, and the week after. You will only become good at DMing by doing it repeatedly. That is the only way. You build quality through quantity, right? Happy to hear that, Lang. All right. In order to keep Starkheim as living a dungeon as possible, these are notes for myself, but I'm writing them anyway. We'll need to create factions. This will help serialize the adventure. Now, I could write down every faction that appears anywhere in the dungeon onto this list, and that would be fine. You could do that. But that would also be superfluous. If I write down giant ants as a faction, or Zorn as a faction, and they only show up in one area, what am I doing to myself? Just leave them in there. This section is only really useful to us if these are things that appear repeatedly, consistently, sort of everywhere. So that's kind of what they're about. So here I say undead, but I know the Dracolich is going to give him undead. Hang on. So they've got undead. They've got firejackets. I'm going to take these cool monster stat blocks and I'm going to give it to factions here. Right? Jason96, this is a dungeon we started preparing 2 live streams ago. You've just missed the summary, but basically it's a big mega dungeon. We're making factions for it. Unless you're asking about the software, it's called Obsidian. You're talking of global factions. No, sir. Bramus 51, I'm talking about factions in the dungeon. These are only local to this one dungeon. The area itself, the forest we're in, factions in Loggers County, has all of these factions in it. And these factions are only really present in this forest. In my world as a whole, there's a whole bunch of other factions. In this one dungeon, we are making a few dungeons. Oh, there's ads in this. Poop. I gotta go get YouTube Premium. Are factions required for Mega Dungeon? Can you run a Mega Dungeon without them? Sure. Sure, but if you do, you run the risk of every room feeling a little self-contained. The reason we're making factions here is because we want all of these different rooms to have these sort of links and connections. And what we're getting out of that is each room is going to have a connection to a faction. The reason there are giant rats in this room is because they were running away from the fire giants next door. And the fire giants are working for the rekindlers, right? So that is the purpose of factions. They will create connective tissue. So this section here is about connective tissue that takes all of these areas and makes them one thing. Love Tech, is there ever a risk of confusing players with too many factions? Yeah, you can obviously. If you have too much of anything, the players can get confused. My players are used to my nonsense. They've been playing with me long enough that they know I'll just start making up new stuff. They've been able to keep all of this in their head. Sometimes they have to go, wait, which ones was that? And they'll talk about it a bit. But they largely are able to keep this sorted. So. I know I need to put the drow in here, separate from everything else. The Myconids, the Warforged. The Duergar need to get in here separate from everything else. Actually, no, here they are. So, gone, gone, gone. The Warforged, I'm just going to put in a specific area. Myconids are here, so I don't need them anywhere else. Troglodyte tribes. Just going to write down Warforged in here and I'm going to move along. I'm going to remove that paragraph. Yeah, Saf, that sounds rough. Any chance you could make there be a revelation that nobody's lived here for centuries, but there are ancient factions and there are more Fremen than anyone dared think. You know, there are more of them out there. I do not, Mars. I'll get on there. One of these days. So, the King's Bulwark. We know that there is a king of the Starkhelm clan. So actually, let's see. What have I written about the Starkhelm clan? Is there a name of a king here? King Garrick.
When King Garrick Starkhelm saw his political power waning. Waning. I am not a native speaker. Wangling? Blimey. Shrinking. Huh. Yeah, Bearcat18. You can have your local factions spill into other areas. That seems absolutely fine. Some of these factions have shown up with like an agent somewhere else, but they have their home in the adventure area, basically. When King Garrick Starkhelm saw his political power shrinking, he knew his days were numbered. He quickly summoned his best knights and most loyal soldiers and advisors, and fled Starkheim City. You know, Jake Lamb, there's always some celebrity people want to compare me to, and I'm happy it's all flattering comparison. So thank you, I guess. Fled Starkhelm City. No, he didn't flee Starkhelm City. He's in Starkheim, right? Yeah. He fled Castle Starkheim. Castle Starkhelm. Yeah. But he was pinned down. He was pinned down once he got into Starkheim City. So that's probably fine for now. I just want to get a little paragraph on each of these guys, just so I know what I'm dealing with. Each of these factions needs a name for the person leading them. Starkheim or Starkhelm? Starkhelm is the clan, Starkheim is the place. Muffin76, yeah, basically. I'll probably run them the same way. I'll roll on the table when I think the time is right, but I think I'll do it every 30 minutes IRL time. Or maybe, not while we're in combat, but maybe I'll roll, I'll roll, not on the table, sorry, roll 1d6. And on the 6 there's an encounter. And I'll do it on the 30-minute IRL time, or after 3 dungeon turns, basically. Can one of them be a Thane? That sounds good. Thane what? Thane Zamru. Let's name it after you. I'll need a last name, but this is good for now. Here we go. Souls. There we go. Now the king is King Garrick. He's here. Jake Lamb, but there could be an heir, and the heir dislikes his king. That could be the Obsidian Road. Prince. I don't know how to work your name into a dwarf name, though. Prince Jaglab. Buying arcane goods off of the Duergar. We're gonna have a Jaglab. Yaglab. Yaglab. Yaglak. Jaglak. There we go. There we go. We've made a name. We're searching for Bloodstone, which is a thing that appears elsewhere in the adventure. Basically, it's this arcane rock that can be crushed or something to make magic. It's like arcane power in a rock. Rekindlers. I think there's a priest. Or a seer, or a shaman. What do we call this guy? The High Seer. Somebody has to name this guy. Rune Priest. That's good. Now I learned something about Rarketh, the Rune Priest, here recently. He wasn't a fire cultist first. He was just a regular old dwarf priest. He had a job in the nation, right? And they weren't a fire worshipping nation or whatever. But then something went wrong. He created a permanent passage between the mundane world of Arathon and the worlds of Quintessence, the elemental worlds, right? Since this passage was created, the connection between connection between elemental powers and the Starkheim complex has only grown. And I think I'm actually gonna have the fire giants be their own. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Is that what I want to do? I think so. I think these are Surtur's finest. Do I have an article for Surtur? Yeah, Surtur is the god of fire giants in my setting. So what's in it for the fire giants? Very good question, Safety Last. I think the fire giants are trying to abuse the situation. They're trying to win, basically. They have an opportunity here to control the Earthheart Forge, which is this kind of primordial forge that I think has something to do with the very essence of quintessence, of elemental chaos. So, this is an additional faction I'm adding on top, the fire elemental faction. No, now I'm thinking, I don't know, I think I'm breaking my own rule here. I don't think I'd put them anywhere except in the lava dam. So, I'm gonna take all this, I'm gonna cut it again, and I'm gonna put it into the lava dam. Nothing is holy. Writing is rewriting. This is the beauty of factions. This is what they do for us, right? Now that we have this lava dam, it's controlling the Earthheart Forge, but it's under the control of cruel fire giants. Why? What's going on? Now we have this faction we can tie them into, and now it's a part of the overall story. As soon as we tie everything into factions, not even everything, just many things, it will become easier for us to have this all be a part of one singular narrative. The narrative is the mega dungeon. Within it are contained factions. Within that, there are a whole bunch of different different stories that are being told, right? Now I'm wondering, how much do I want House Kanafi in here? So House Kanafi are these drow, and I know they've got something to do with what's going on, but I don't know how persistent they are. I think they are. I think they're fully persistent. I think it's a big mega dungeon. I think it's a shame if they're not. I had doubts. Doubts are gone. Throw in the calendar is not in the video. This is not in the Obsidian video. It is called Calendarium, and it's fairly easy. If you go search the plugin store, you can go find it. Calendarium. There it is. But I don't have a video on it. But I'm sure if you go search Obsidian Calendarium, somebody has a video on it. So I'm almost done here. I need a last name for this Thane. There you go. Throw in here. God, Zamru Godbrand. Having heard the Stockholm clan was struggling, Drow of House Kanapi were quick to circle. Hello. Stand by, everybody. AB's gonna have a seat behind me here, so she's gonna have to turn up the music because she's not allowed to hear any of this. You'll have to do without narration for a bit while she gets settled in. Blistering hot in here.
Is the window open?
Yeah.
Hello.
Let me know when you're plugged in so I can start talking.
Huh?
Okay. Can I talk now?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thanks. Dungeon turns. Bachel. Yeah. So the thing is, dungeon turns are this awesome thing that I've played through, but I've never run. So I don't want to make a video on it until I can speak from a point of experience. Whenever I run this, I will use dungeon turns, and I will try them out, and I'll give them an earnest shot. But basically, it's this way of tracking dungeon actions in 10-minute sections, and then you use that to determine whether or not it's time to roll for a wandering monster. And because wandering monsters make combat reduces resources, it taps right into the resource economy and the time economy. And these things, they talk together so that now you can tax your players' resources and time as they move through the dungeon. Or you can use time to tax their resources, right? So they are a good way to sort of build on top of all of these ideas. And in theory, they sound awesome, and I'm sure they are. I just haven't tried them enough that I'm willing to make a video on it talking about it. But whenever I do, whenever I actually run this, I'll give him a test and then I'll tell you all about it. So I know that House Kanafi is in here because I know that they are a part of. They are snooping around. I know they're being light-footed. They're sneaking around in here. They're trying to get everything that they need to get in order to get the Earthheart Forge operational. So I know that these guys are hunkered down. These guys are probably in like a section of the dungeon. These guys in a different section. These guys in another section. You're gonna be hearing this every now and again. Thing is, AB is no longer doing band practice, so every now and again she'll now be behind me. So we're gonna have to figure out a different setup if we don't want to hear too much of crosstalk, basically. Oh, hey, Sidewinder. Welcome along. So, what I need... These are the factions that are going to be in this dungeon. There's only going to be these 5. Anything else isn't a dungeon-wide faction. It is specific to an area, right? And for those, we don't need to do all this work. We can do it when we get to the area. You know, let's say that there's a really cool faction of... Trogs. There's a cool Trog faction here in the Mineshafts. That sounds awesome. I'll just put it in the Mineshafts info. I don't need to put it in the overall grand scheme factions part, right? Because they don't matter there. They only matter in the Mineshaft section. So for this bit, we have all these factions: the King's Bulwark, the Blackened Hand, the Obsidian Road, the Rekindlers, and House Kanafi. And each of these factions is useful to us because it represents a certain idea. Same Zanru Godbrand, on behalf of the Blackened Hand, went and spoke to the Dracolich. Prince Yaglak Starkheim went and spoke to the Obsidian, or to the Duergar. Priest Arketh reached out to the Elemental Chaos, right? So, and then we have this squad here. This is probably going to be like, actually only like 5 people. So what we need to figure out is, what are these factions? What's in them? Who are they? Can we take the idea of King's Bulwark and logic out who the members are? We don't need to write a lot about them. We can get a lot done with a bullet point and just some basic concepts. So the king has a knight of some kind, maybe enforcer, protector. There's also an lead advisor of some kind. There is a military like captain. Sorry, God. This is different from the enforcer. The enforcer is one elite guy. The captain is some kind of rugged, more kind of working class, basically, and commands a small section of dudes here. And then something fun. Let's throw something fun in the mix. This could be a nerd. Dwarf nerd. Could be Eugene Eglinton. So my question is, who are these for? And what are the equivalent handful, probably 4, for the other factions? And I want to bounce it over to you. You know, what kind of stuff would you think is cool for any one of these? And if you're suggesting things, make sure to include what faction you're thinking about. So Bearcat18, you say Alchemist, that sounds cool. Does the Alchemist belong to the Blackened Hand, the Obsidian Road, the Rekindlers? Maybe it's the nerd here. That sounds awesome, right? So what other things in the factions do we need? Or if you don't want to think about that, maybe you're like, ooh, it would be cool if the advisor was ... right? Yes. That's cool, Matthew Willis. Let's get a Drider in here. Knight captain or commander. I think we have a knight here and a captain here, so I think we've got that covered. If you're thinking about the Knight's Bulwark, unless you're thinking about something else, Bryce, I don't know. think the advisor, yeah, you say Jiglab, you say like a bard. I think it's actually bookkeeper. He keeps the book of grudges. Roped Goat says diplomat. Yep, that sounds fine. This one talks to is a Duergar, right? That sounds fun. Nathan Bowen is talking about giants and dragons. That's like Forgotten Realms lore. I don't really use that, but I like the idea though of a fire giant blacksmith and dragon slayer. So let's put that in here. Yeah, assassin. Somebody suggested here. That's a good take. Spectre or a white. I like a white. A sage for the Obsidian Road. What is there a way to make it sort of trade flavored or Duergar flavored? Kobold vampire. Sure. I also need some regular dudes for the Black and Tan. They can't all be undead. They're bolstered by them, but they're also just some regular Duergar necromancers. Or dwarf. There we go. Spy Master, Zamru says. That's good. A surveyor. Yeah, that's good flavor here. For the Obsidian Road. The Charger have an ironkin. I'm sorry, Mac Andrews. I don't think I can parse that question. Dark Paladin, yeah. It's a lot like the white. So let me just merge that. I want a character in here, so we, some cool bad guys is awesome, but we also want like a character that we can sort of hang our hat on for the story. And I think for this, I want to know who was the dwarf in the Blackened Hand. Maybe it was Amru, but maybe it was someone else who did most of the negotiating. And they really regret it. They're full of regret. They wish they hadn't done it. Who is that character? That's what I'd be interested in finding out. Sorry, futzing with my settings here. Changeling. I don't know about that. I've never really been into that fiction myself, personally. I also want a nervous acolyte in here. Acolyte. Sorrowful ghost. Yes, that's fun. He's dead. He's a dwarf, but he's dead. Mac, you're in a car. Don't be in chat. If you get in an accident, I'll never forgive myself. Stop typing. I'm done answering you. until you pull over, you get to where you're going. Bad. I think this one's also a dwarf. So I think these are all dwarfs. Just some of them might be undead. That's fine. I think this one is Starkheim Duergar Ward. He's like Theon Greyjoy. He's actually a Duergar, but he's been living with the Starkheim for all his life. This one could be a Darkling, maybe? Darkling ally? This one's just a regular dwarf. Was the ghost killed? Yeah. Not by the Drigglage, but I think by this guy. Now notice how what's happening is we're creating a little story inside each faction, right? We were talking earlier on the stream, before we started, about the idea that if you're running a sandbox, you have to be excited by everything in the sandbox. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. If you're running a sandbox and you've got a faction in here you don't like, you're not excited by, what's it doing in there, right? What you got to do is you got to make sure that this faction, the Blackened Hand, has got this character that was killed by this character, and it's got this story. It was done in the orders of this one, and now you've got a little narrative that you can play with. And now whenever the Blackened Hand shows up, we uncover that narrative, right? And the same is true for the Obsidian Hand. We got to go figure out, what is our story character? One character is often enough to suddenly have a whole story. So who is that character? I think it actually is this guy. So I think what we need is somebody who hates him, wants to kill him. Right? Now we got a little conflict here. He hates the Duergar, doesn't want them involved. Players will like that, but he hates this diplomat because he's a Duergar. Even though this guy is nothing like the rest of them. Players won't like that. So what do? Now there's a story. Right? Elemental buddy, that's cool. If it's like a regular fire elemental, then probably not, but it could be an Azer. No idea if you guys can hear AB, she's saying something. I also know that there are cloakers. House Kanafi has cloakers. No, I think we have this guy, Furious Dan. I think this is enough for me to run him. He is probably a part of the, like, sales. In charge of sales, right? And I'll need a commander of this unit. So the House Kanavi unit has a unit here, and it's got this Cloaker Beastmaster, and it's got a Spy Master and a Drider. Now we got a little team. It's got 3 other dudes, and that's it. The Rekindlers, we've got a group here. There's probably something we want to get in here. No, I think Rarketh has a pretty good story. Actually, Rarketh should be... I'm going to change his name to Arketh. Arketh has a pretty good story, because I can just add. He regrets it, right? So this isn't a nervous acolyte. This is a... I lost it. Zealous acolyte. He wants to do more. He's like, hey, Arcus, you did it. Let's do more. Go to sleep, Bamog. Good night. Thanks for joining. We don't have that much left. So, at this point, you know, what I need to do is I need to give these guys names. That might probably take too long if you know, I have ideas about how all these names should go. Give them names. You know, I might write a little about them. So let's just do one. Let's do a couple as example, right? Just so you have it here, folks. Actually, that's good, Road Goat. I'm writing that in. Femdrow Girlboss. Love it. Oh, that's a good point, Lulu. That might be fun. So, what I would do now, I have this outline here. I might not name any of these guys until it's the session they show up, right? If I know, you know, now I have a little framework. King's Bulwark are these characters, and they're not in Storkheim City yet. They're somewhere up here in one of these dungeons, and I want to tease the Bulwark. Well, I'll have a piece of paper from the Alchemist. Some note that he wrote to some scouting party that's dead. I'll put the Alchemist's name on it in my session notes. Hand it over to the players, and they now have the name of this Alchemist. Then I'll write it down in here. That's probably how I'll build this out. It'll take me ages. It'll be a part of running the adventure. But doing that, I will slowly but surely sort of paint in the details. I will render the details, right? If you remember that video. I'll go through and I'll create details as I go along. I don't need to go and figure all of this out and have all of this written out. I don't need to do that. That way lies madness, and that way lies I never get to play D&D. I'm doing this so I can play. But I'm also doing this to show you folks how I do it. So let's write an article for this guy. He's cool. Alright, Mac. I'll take your word for it. Since you're home safe, you get to be this dwarf. Mac Drew here is a dwarven white paladin. On a bold white, because that's stat block. He killed the ghost character. He is dogmatic and follows orders without second thought. Death only made him more obedient. That's it. I don't need more for this guy. I'm done. Could I write about his parents and how he got here? Yeah. Am I gonna? Ain't nobody got time for that. A regretful dwarf negotiator. Slowly dwarfifying everyone's name in chat. I apologize, folks. It's just about that time, and I'm cooking. I'm boiling hot in here. I don't have much more in me, but we're gonna do a couple more of these. Lulok, this dwarven negotiator was responsible for the deal with Vexer and Monicus. this wouldn't take me that long to fill out. Ah, sorry, banged the table. I apologize. Does he now blame Zamru? Yeah, probably. That's a good name, Furious Dan. We'll put that in there. So what's the difference between this enforcer and that one? Well, he's got his own code of ethics. Doesn't follow orders blindly. He thinks for himself. He's not a sycophant. Right? Changing the formatting here. And you can see, you know, as we go through this, we'd very quickly start filling all this up. Thanks, Jay. Alright, we'll put you in here as well. Ofra. Tight ship, right? Not a tight shift. Let's just add a no-nonsense kind of captain. What's tight ship? You know, is this not enough to play an NPC? I know everything I need to know about this person, right? It's a pet rat. Oh, I don't know about that. We can give her a pet something, though. What do dwarves have? Pet bullet. What's the name of the bullet? It's gonna be JV. What does JV stand for? I don't know. It's probably something badass, right? Justice vindicated. I don't know. Cool name, shortened to JV. Alright. What kind of encounters are there? So one fun thing about the Loggers County one which I should have kept when I copy pasted this, is that this is faction, 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 faction. Big boss, big boss, faction. Right? Sorry, Matt. That sounds fun, but that's not my kind of game. So I'm going to reduce this to 2d6. That allows me to cut all the way down to 12. So I'm just going to remove this line, remove this line. 2, 3, 4. Let's cut 2 more. I'll remove this one and that one. 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright. Now we just need to map, you know. Actually going to move the factions higher up. No, I like them where they were. Sort of flanked by these natural monsters. Alright, what are some obvious wandering monsters to stick in a mega dungeon? I just want this one to say, like, dungeon critter. Wandering trogs from the mineshaft. Yeah. Kruthic. Like, Daði, you've got a crown next to your name. I don't know what that means. Violet Fungus Necrohulk. So I'm gonna try and just create categories out of this. So we got the trogs. Fire beetles. Well, let's do fire factions, right? And then let's get 2 capstones. Don't know. What would the 2 capstones be? These sort of big, scary... Beholder. Behir? It should be something big and scary, but probably not something we already have in the dungeon. Something that's moving. Fragment methods, we could put all those in the fire faction area, you know. What's like a big singular high CR purple worm? That could be it. We already have one in one of the areas. So I'm wondering what else could it be? What's our Balrog? Could just be a Balor. It's kind of insane. But let's be cool. I have a Froghemus mini. Dire Trolls are cool. Morcos. Yeah, those are all like specifically underwater. It's ideally it could work anywhere in the... I think it has to be the purple worm. I think it has to be, right? If it has to work anywhere in the dungeon. You have its tunnels. Do you have the purple worm mate roaming? That's fun. You win a prize, William Dickey. Now, remember our video on random encounters? Getting a 3 on this chart doesn't necessarily... I'm going to move the factions again. I know I said I wasn't gonna, but I'm gonna. I'm going to move House Kanafi further down. This is fine like that. So, the reason I use 2d6 is because it creates a bell curve, right? These encounters are by far likeliest. And random encounters, you're right, JV, does not mean combat, but also it doesn't mean a specific combat. The reason I put the faction on here, or I put dungeon critter on here, is because if I just put the gelatinous cube and I'm in a scenario where that doesn't make any sense to me, then I'm kind of screwed, and then I end up not using it, and then I'm like, I don't want to roll, I might end up getting the thing that I don't want. So I put in dungeon critter, and then I just put in a list, and what I do is I'll write a little headline like this, a little header, and I'll go dungeon critter. And then I write in it, a classic wandering dungeon critter comes along and provides us all with a typical dungeon exploration encounter. That might be Now I don't need to do a table. I could just go bullet list, mimic, gelatinous cube, piercers, dark mantles, roper, Behir, let's scroll up here, Grix, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I cut the Behir, it's a D6 table. There you go. And then I'm gonna add this creature could be dead, killed by a dwarf carrying some loot, or it could be tracks leading back to another layer of the dungeon. Whatever. Right? Rust monster, sure. And let's add black pudding. Now we have 8. Now we've got this thing where if I roll a 6, I could roll a d8 to get a result here. Or I could just look at this list and go, this is what I want. Or I could say, you know, let's have it be a dead mimic or something, right? If I don't want combat. It's up to the DM running the game to read the table and realize, have we done too much combat today? Do we really need something else? What is it we need? And then you give it to your players. That is running DM's job. So that is what this is about. And then we go and we say, okay, we know what else is here. Let's write a faction one. Troglodytes. And how did I start this here? They might be carrying some stuff. They might be in a group of exclusively troglodytes. Or their numbers might be bolstered with sturges, trolls, or even dire trolls. There you go. Dire trolls got in here. Then I go alternatively. Named Stinky. Because troglodytes smell. There you go. Right? All hail the Comet Kings. Awesome. Didn't know we had that feature. So now you can see how these tables start creating this living dungeon. And we pair it with our factions. I hope you can see where we're sort of going with this. We've got this bulwark with a story in it. Then we got these factions, right? And we can go one step further, right? Let's take it a little bit further. Let's go create. It's 9, right? Let's put our money where the mouth is. Small. So the Black Hand, they're looking for fresh souls to feed to. Dwarven warriors or spies. Their numbers are bolstered with a flame skull, or so I'm trying to pick a CR5 ally here, like a funky ally, a CR5 ally, and then like a CR10 ally. Difficulty with like a mid CR, mid to high CR undead. I'm sorry, Jorga. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. But I don't know what Dungeon Majesty is, so I cannot answer that question. What's a bone giant? Is that a thing? Bone giant? Sounds cool. And I bold some of these. There you go. Alternatively, they might encounter no luck. Beating themselves up for the mess they've created. Let's just decide a bone giant is a stone giant with undead fortitude. There you go. Yeah, it's you. That's you, Lulak. And now you can see how this faction is here, and we're going to put them somewhere, right? We're going to reference them in various parts of these outlines, right? We're going to say here in the... we're going to say here... So this area that featured the Death Knight, which you might think, it's just a random Death Knight in the dungeon. Well, right now it features a conflict between the Blackened Hand and this Death Knight. So it's in every area. Not necessarily every area has a faction, but all of these factions go into some of these or most of these areas. Or if they're not in an area, maybe there's just a reference to them. The only reason these hill giants are here, and then there's a little note that is from the alchemist. That's it. That's enough of a reference of a faction, but now we're learning something about the dungeon. We're not just learning, it's not just exploring areas, it's exploring factions. We're discovering there's a faction, there's an area, there's, and then when we roll for a wandering monster, we might roll for the Blackened Hand, and we might get different parts of it. See where we're going with this? So we can sort of layer these things on top and create this dynamic, cityscape basically for what our dungeon is, and this will make it feel alive. Even if these areas are all fairly standard, and they're sort of self-contained episodes. Well, the episodes have serialized arcs to them, the things we're referencing back to. I think that's sort of my point. I think it's kind of what I was hoping to get at with this stream. I've created these factions a bit, and we've done these a few random encounters here. I'll continue to flesh this out. Maybe I'll do it on another stream. Maybe I'll do it offline. I don't know yet. So other than that, I think just, that's where we'll pick it up next time. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. This channel is run by me and my girlfriend. AB, say hi.
Huh?
Say hi.
Hello. Oh, I melted.
Yeah, you're melting. Here. This channel is run by me and my melting girlfriend. If you feel like supporting us directly, go head on over to our Patreon, where this month we are doing dungeons. There's a bunch of them. There was last week there was the Rack of the Wave Splitter. We started off with All Hail Gek, and there's going to be 2 more this week. Can you believe it? Incredible. Thanks so much for joining, everybody. This has been a pleasure. You folks are just the best, and I hope to continue on with these streams. Hopefully there's one more before Dungeon Mayhem is out, but we'll see. We are doing a lot of videos, so we'll see if we have the time. But other than that, until next time, keep studying the Mystic